Hello. We are about to start the webinar. We're taking about a minute to let the last people get in, and then we will start. We're going to have an interesting discussion here. We're going to talk about search, enterprise search. And we did the webinar earlier today, and there's a lot of interesting topics to discuss. Got some good responses. More people getting in. About 30 seconds, and then we're going to start. Today I don't have my background music with me. That's the thing I'm missing. Normally I would do that, but yeah, I'm recording from another studio today. So I have a lot of equipment around me. I have a very funny setup, but I'm missing my audio input.
Yeah, we need the bumper music for you.
Yeah, I'm missing my bumper music. Maybe Joel, who didn't, Joel is here. Hi, Joel.
Hey, everybody. It's great to be on with everybody.
It's great that we're doing this webinar together.
Yeah, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart. And it's great to be here with such a good friend, Maarten.
Yes, I liked we're doing this for the second time, and yes, it really feels good to do a webinar with you. So we are really going to start now. Welcome everybody. My name is Maarten Visser. I'm the MC of Meetroo, the master of ceremony. I'm the one at Meetroo who is allowed to spit in the mic and tell a bit about what we do. And I also try to make sure that everything stays organized. And Joel, can you tell a bit about yourself?
Yeah. So I'm Joel Oleson. I'm a senior IT manager at Blizzard Entertainment, and I'm a Microsoft regional director, which is kind of like the MVP program but on steroids. And I've been working with SharePoint Office 365 since the beginning. It's great to be here on here with everybody and talking about search.
Yes, we're going to touch a lot of cool topics today. Enterprise search is something, it's an area which already exists for at least 20 years. I think it's already dated from the early days of enterprise content management, which originally starts like in the 80s. I think it's with when Documentum and FileNet were created. I think it's 82 and 83, and then we had document management, and search became a part of that. And of course, Lotus Notes had search. And then I think at the end of the 90s, when we also got global search on the internet, we were getting to see the first kind of enterprise search solutions for the enterprise since the 2000s.
Yeah, I remember Alta Vista, altavista.digital.com. Had to type a lot just to be able to get a decent search engine.
Yeah, or browse to all those categories in Yahoo.
Yeah, and a little Stanford project called Yahoo.
Exactly. Yeah. So search is in development for 3 decades, I would say. But we're hitting a point where a lot of things are happening, and we want to guide you quickly to some of the interesting topics and specific items within this industry. So at first, I want to give the word to Joel, you start to give a quick explanation about what's your vision on enterprise search and what are the most important things that you think are important.
Yeah, and I like this visual of the vault because I think that the biggest challenge we have today is unlocking our data. You know, it's stuck in this enterprise vault of we're so concerned about storing away our data, but we don't necessarily think about what's the best way to get it back out. And you know, that's that challenge of how do we best categorize our data and put it in a way that we can actually get it back out of there. You know, we think about putting our money in a vault, but something that's even more valuable is data. But we'll actually put data in there without even thinking about how we're going to get it back out. It's kind of funny
really
from that perspective. But it's a good analogy. You know, you're putting really valuable things in this vault and just stuffing it full. And it relates to this problem of, well, if we're sticking all this data in there, how are we going to get it out? And often it's one of the most undervested areas in organizations, where there's nobody assigned to tune it or to optimize it. We think about some high level things that we think are our best bets, and those things that are recommended results. But beyond that, we often don't curate it. We don't add metadata to it. We don't do content extraction techniques or things like that. And some companies pay millions of dollars to do those things, so that they can actually get their data back out of it. It's back in the days, you talk about decades ago, people used to store things in file cabinets. I mean, they still do in some organizations, but you'll notice that they put little tabs on them and make sure that they're filed away in such a way that they can retrieve them. But now in the digital world, we're throwing things into repositories, multiple dozens of repositories. I mean, even in organizations today, it's not so uncommon to have Box and Dropbox and Google Drive and OneDrive and SharePoint groups, and it's not just one group. You've got dozens of groups, and
we're creating multiple vaults
out of there. Yeah,
we have the average company has between 10 and a couple hundreds of those vaults.
Yep.
And
Yep.
Some are easy accessible, but they're not. It's not that you get there easily, or about all the vaults or silos that exist.
Yeah, it's really a problem, and really it's that idea of the where are we trying to go? We're trying to be able to just be able to put in a couple terms or a simple query and actually get out what we're actually looking for.
True.
And any second, the slide will transfer. There we go. So the problem today is it's information overload. There's just way too much information. I mean, we're doubling information every year, and then it's information underload, because when we're searching, we're not getting the results back that we're actually looking for. In fact, what it seems to be is we're getting tons of old stuff, but where's the stuff I was just working on? It's such a big problem. And not just even our own internal employees, but customers. They demand quick results, and that speed of business is actually driving things. And search is definitely one of the things that can make a difference in one business or another, and it can mean bankruptcy or success, depending on how quickly you can actually get data and make decisions based on that data. And
yeah, it's really that way that customers demand direct actions, and
yep.
That like the average time that people are expected that emails are reacted on, or that if they call that you can give a direct answer on a certain query, if you're like on a call center. And so it's one of the big pains here is that there's a lot of information, and we get better applications and better tools and services to manage that application, but quickly accessing and quickly in quickly I mean like seconds, like not minutes or longer, because you need this information really, like the old statement, at your fingertips.
Yeah.
Because if you're working working on a document, you're doing research, or if you're writing a proposal for a customer, and you quickly want to like find a specific fact, and if you're gonna look for it, and it's gonna take you longer than a minute to find it, you lost your concentration. It's gone. And you need like 20 minutes to get back to the point where you were, if you found the information, and that's a real issue.
Yeah, and you could spend millions of dollars on these tools, and it does, just because you bought the tool doesn't necessarily mean it's going to change it. And we are looking for tools that are just plug and play that solve these problems, and it continues to be a problem.
Absolutely.
And just kind of quickly, a few reasons why search is failing. We already talked about the aspect that data often is locked up. Often it's we talk about enterprise search, you're searching, but actually the right data is not there. It's actually more secure or in some other system. So the the data you're looking for is actually not even indexed. And then you talk about that technology you've invested in. It's amazing how many of these systems nobody's even looked at it. It's just doing its thing, but it hasn't been configured. You know, since the consultants who set it up, nobody's even touched it. It's a big problem. And even in the SharePoint world, it's like there's some tuning that has to take place that's related to your organization. And if you're talking about Office 365, even then, there's things that can and should be done to create those search verticals to tune it so that you can actually get what you care about. And some of the things we'll talk about that are recently announced things that as well, the default is going to be those things are not turned on. So you do need to take action. A lot of the defaults just don't really help you from a search perspective.
And it takes a long time to set up. So there's a lot of indexing technology and queries and ways to integrate search, but it's very expensive. And only very specialized companies like in the healthcare or legal really have the time and money to really spend the hundreds of thousands or millions to really make that work.
Yep, you got it. It's the tuning, raking, relevancy. Microsoft doesn't know your data. You know, these search technologies, they don't understand your data. And the users, when was the last time they had a course on optimizing queries or learning KQL or anything that can help them? In this deck, I've actually got a little bit of a tips and tricks thing that hopefully will help those of you who are on. And I plan to turn it into an infographic so that it's something you can share with your users if you like. So a couple key use cases. When we think about search, often there's various aspects to this, and we think about discovery. You know, what's new? What should I be thinking about? What should I be working on? What's trending in the organization? What are the documents that are popular? What are high ranking for the terms that I actually care about? And even access to resources. You know, it's those people who curate the best bets. Quick access to resources that some people like to browse, some people like to search. And often if you take away the browsing capabilities, that quick access needs to just work. I mean, search-driven UIs and search-driven experiences are great if the search is tuned properly and the ranking is good. And then I think one of the most popular is research. You know, you're trying to find information on some topic, or your project is trying to move forward and you need to gather data, and you want to know what's been done before so you can stand on their shoulders rather than actually duplicated effort. And that study that was done recently on GDP and what was lost, you could probably share some insight on that.
We should not go into that now. That will take
Okay.
too much time. But yeah, it's an important example. We can share it in the notes later as a point of resource. Yeah, we should do that.
So some quick tips and tricks. I don't plan on diving into this so much, but if you didn't know that you could use quotes for phrases or minuses for excluding things and pluses for including things, and you know, when you're doing partial terms, you're not exactly sure how to spell something or spelling somebody's name, those wildcards can definitely help in a huge way. And a lot of people don't realize that even things like author and file type and file name, if you're specific, you remember parts of the file name, you can actually use file name : right in your search query, and then put in the terms or the phrase or the a wildcard search as well to then help and identify the file you're looking for. So these little tips and tricks can help you in optimizing your query, optimizing what you're looking for. And while sometimes you see refiners and that can help, what you can do actually in the search query can actually help as well in a huge way. So I'll be sharing this.
Yeah, and when we're talking about like solutions to improve search, a part of the answer is this slide is an example. It's about making search more accessible to a much broader audience. the average employee, like 50 or 60% of the people working in an average company, not a tech company or not another very hyper modern innovative company, then normally 50, 60% are really basic users. They know how to use email, and they know how to use Outlook, send and receive emails, use the applications that they've been learned to do, and that's the basic stuff. But we should widen that up. There should be much more focus on learning basic IT skills to everybody. And that way, and this is just an example where if you know some of those tricks, these also help you in your daily life when you're using Google to search for the best for a new house, or for a certain product, or for a review on a thing that you want to buy. And these also for that personal research, it's very useful to know how to use search inside of Google or Bing.
Yeah.
So
in fact, it's like it's a life skill now. You know, these aren't hacker skills. These are just life skills that everybody needs to have, because it's amazing to me when somebody says, "Oh, I wish I knew the answer to this," and I do a quick search and it came up for me. You know, why doesn't it come up for them? Well, I might be using quotes, or I might be trying to exclude and push down things, and then saying this is that include, being able to say this term, and then you actually start mixing things where you use the include with the phrase, and it gets very, very specific.
Correct.
And it can actually, you know, reduces the number of results you get back in a huge way.
Yeah, so it's a very quick way to improve company productivity, is to teach basic skills to your end users. It will boost productivity, absolutely. There are many examples of business cases and ROIs in doing that, and teaching search is a very important part of that. I do also think that it should be made easier. And I will tell you a bit about that, how we think that could be done with by using our product. But still, this should be taught at high school, how to do this stuff. Everybody should be able to learn how to do this. And for the time that people don't get educated at basic school or primary school or high school to do this, well, employers have to pick up that and make their company more successful by teaching basic skills like how to use search.
Yeah, this can help you in so many different ways. Shopping, finding files on SharePoint, everything in between.
Exactly.
Now,
the Microsoft stuff.
yes. So with Microsoft, there's Ignite happening next week, and we recently had the SharePoint event in the spring. There's a lot of things we're anticipating, a lot of features. Some of these features have started to roll out. I've noticed a few things in relation to search on office.com, and I'm seeing much more of the predictive experience in SharePoint on regular pages. And we're going to dig in on some of that in the next few slides. But we are going to have a follow-up webinar, and I would invite anybody on here as well to join us on that. So kind of the things we're anticipating. And one of the coolest is the SharePoint mobile app. So the SharePoint mobile app, my company doesn't really use the news in SharePoint yet. And so the SharePoint mobile app, which it's so news focused, it really hasn't been super relevant yet. But with search, now all of a sudden my ability to search for people and get phone numbers and be able to reach out and touch people, and also being able to search for documents, it makes it much more relevant. Where before it was, you know, there's no real navigation experience. You could favorite sites and get at your documents, but I can do that in Word, Excel, or PowerPoint as well, or in OneDrive, which is what I would use when I'm working on a document, I'm using OneDrive. But search in the SharePoint mobile app all of a sudden makes that mobile app much, much more relevant. And what you could say in terms of what Microsoft's really going at with these announcements they're going to be making, and often it's the rubber meets the road at Ignite, where a lot of things are announced at the SharePoint conference. They get released at Ignite. So you're seeing some of these things slowly rolling out, but they're improving kind of a consistent search experience across Office 365. And I've even noticed across the consumer experience, live.com and office.com really start to marry up and have kind of a similar look and feel. I've even noticed OneDrive consumer, a OneDrive for business. Man, those experiences have really gotten a lot better and much more consistent as well.
Absolutely. I think this is one of the best things that are finally happening. Of course, it should have happened earlier, but this is how people are going to get happy if you're moving across different services and you're getting a similar behavior and look and feel. Then that makes a very big difference in how people become more engaged with a tool. If it of course, it needs to be simply to use, but consistency is so important.
Yeah. And while we're going to drill into these things a little bit, some things that come to mind, this zero-time search, where you can actually have the answer come up at the top of your search results, coming, say, generated from a SharePoint list, or answers directly out of search, rather than being able to even have to go to the results. You're seeing the answer right there. Boom, you're there before you even have to click to go to the results page. Those things can be quite powerful.
Basically, there, if you hit a SharePoint list, I guess a part of the metadata in the list is already like pre-indexed within the browser. So,
yeah, and that's what gives you those search verticals and filters. So it's like if you've got other columns, it's starting to be more intuitive about understanding how you might want to filter your data.
Correct. Yeah. And you already get the filters and the properties, so it makes it much more intuitive to set it up or to use it.
Yeah, and that definitely goes along with those custom entities as well. As like, hey, these are products or these are people. Well, people have departments and locations and so on. And if that's metadata in your list, it's going to be much smarter about how you might want to filter and use that data because it adds entities.
Yeah,
and entity extraction from a perspective of you're adding a bunch of receipts. It's going to recognize these are receipts and make those much more searchable and like entity extraction, so that you can actually leverage that data.
Correct. And next week with Ignite, there has been a program called Bing for Business. It's been in a closed beta for a year, and I really expect that they're going to remove the curtains from what it will look like. And that, I think this also has to do with the ability to customize a part of the search experience. So
and it has a lot to do with when you search on Bing, being able to actually see corporate answers right at the top too. So it's like you might think that you have to go look outside, but if we've actually tuned our internal search right, then we can actually give you some suggestions on internal results as well.
Correct, and you can hook in additional data sources, and you're gonna manage that with keywords across the board. And we can also expect maybe some things regarding new keywords in SharePoint. So it's going to be an interesting week for SharePoint and search next week. So, but we're going to dig fully into that in our follow-up webinar, which probably be in 2 weeks or so.
Definitely. So we talk about consistency. Well, even if you're sitting on the home page of like the office.com, just even clicking in that search box, you'll see I'm getting results from apps, files, people, sites. And I haven't even decided which app I'm going to go into, but I can get results across my email, my SharePoint, my groups, my apps, and sites, and so on. So it actually is starting to be much more intelligent about helping organize and sort and create these kind of search verticals for the things that it's suggesting I might want. And this idea of pinned documents and those recent documents. So before you even have to click into SharePoint, you can see that document that you were just recently working on.
Yeah, for me, the shared with me is so valuable because I knew that somebody said, yeah, I've shared that file with you. And this was a thing that was always hidden somewhere down deep within the OneDrive interface. And it took you like 5 clicks to get there.
Right,
But
right.
and it's so much, it happens to me that I know that, and of course I can go to Outlook and try to search that exact email from that person where I got that sharing link, but that's also a horrible thing to do. And here you just have one click, go to the search with me, and there you find chronologically ordered the items that have been shared with you, and that's so powerful.
Yeah, that's good. That's very good.
Yeah.
And people is another good one as well. Like being able to see, like, these are the people I work with, and here's the documents they're working on, and or hey, you've got an upcoming meeting, and here's some other people you'll be meeting, and here's what they're working on. So it's starting to be much more intuitive.
Absolutely.
And don't forget about Cortana and desktop
Yeah.
search.
Well,
I've slowly seen more and more like that little search bar in Windows 10, where the data is getting much more relevant and starting to show. You'll actually see, even in this example I've got here, this little screenshot, a couple up from the bottom, you see that there's a deck that's actually showing a tiny little preview that's actually sitting in OneDrive. So by virtue of it being in OneDrive, it's trying to leverage that idea that it can actually give me previews. And this is even on my desktop. It's trying to get trying to integrate things that are happening in my OneDrive. And you can imagine being able to say, no, I want to connect all these different repositories into my desktop search, so that even when I don't know where it is, I don't know if it's on my machine, I don't know if it's in OneDrive, I don't know if it's in SharePoint, but my ability to just start typing and again kind of get that type ahead experience for, I know I'm looking for a document that I've been working on. Where is it? And that experience you get, whether it's in OneDrive or SharePoint or even in the clients themselves, being able to get working again, and that idea of kind of the continuous experience of, I was working on this on my mobile device, now I want to work on it on my machine. A lot of those things I think we'll see as well next week.
yeah, it's a very interesting spot. I think indeed there are capabilities to extend this and even connect it to other data sources. I haven't seen much companies doing that, but it's if you bring this functionality to the Windows desktop, and you're also going to get a similar experience on this Office.com homepage if you use Office 365, and you also have this in the search tab on your mobile application. You will get this consistency across devices where people, just depending on what they're doing, if they're sitting behind their PC or if they're on the go, have a similar experience in finding data. And of course, this is mostly limited now to OneDrive and SharePoint, but there's a very interesting road ahead to make that a very interesting experience across devices and software environments.
Yeah, and not to get too far off topic, but I've noticed that Microsoft's pushing the known folders. And when you start using known folders, you're actually moving all this data that you used to keep on your desktop, and you're syncing that data up to the cloud with and then being able to even remove it from your desktop, such that, well, if you do that, search has to become much, much more powerful because you need it, again, at your fingertips.
Good example also for personal use. So there's this tool that you can also use for your OneDrive for a personal to move all the files from your machine to your OneDrive cloud and have it available across your devices and have the ability to search through them. And with search, you also get indexing of images, for example, something that the things that we're seeing now with search, and we didn't mention that in the former slide. But there's a lot of interesting things going on where Microsoft automatically does OCR on all your images and PDF files and other documents which can be indexed. I think currently there are more than 300 file formats that SharePoint automatically can index and preview within your browser. But especially from the search capability of OCR, if you have like a coupon, from something you bought, you make a photo of it from your mobile phone and you save it to OneDrive, and later on you need to find back this particular coupon, you can just query for it at the same three locations within your office.com personal or your desktop or your home OneDrive app on your smartphone. And you will find the data which is on that image, like the name of the company or a date or whatever. So that's what Microsoft is referring to as intelligent search. And Cortana also plays a role in that, where we're going to be able to ask questions. But intelligent search is it's very close to AI, because you have an AI service on the back, machine learning, which captures these images, extracts the data from it, and automatically adds that as metadata to the file. And there always have been solutions to do that, but they were pretty expensive, and it required a lot of work to get it to work. And now it's just in Office 365. It will be in the service, and it's very, very powerful. Many use cases there.
And I think that when we talk about Cortana and desktop search and these things like that, it's like it's not that far to stretch and say a lot of this has to do with the bots and the development of this personal assistant concept of don't make me go and hunt and peck for these things. Put it all, let me just be able to ask something, which kind of relates to that search experience of if I can just interact with something that can then do the sorting and filtering and do all the heavy lifting behind the scenes, I'm able to just say, I'm looking for a document that I was working on recently on this topic, and then it should go search all the various repositories and present up various things, or ask follow-up questions like, was it this week? Was it, was it yesterday? Well, I found 3 documents and here they are.
Yeah, well, this is a perfect example where the personal assistant or speech queries will remove a big part of the complexity of doing search queries. So in your example where you showed some of the tips on using search parameters, the bottom one was, for example, for searching for a document for a specific date. Like you remembered that, like exactly in a specific week a year ago, you created a document and you just want to find that document. But to do that, you have to type a lot of things, like the date in the exact date format. You have to use specific characters, and that's very complex. But if you would be able to, if you're just saying, hey, Cortana, can you show me the documents from, September 23rd to September 30th from 2017, well, that's easy. A child can do that. Mm-hmm. So search really removes the need to understand those complex syntax or commands which are needed, and really removes a part of the complexity out of search queries.
Yeah, totally agree. And I think this is only going to get better. I see a lot of companies investing in bots. Some have been jaded and say it's not ready. Others are saying, wow, this is powerful, and we're going to invest in this. We're actually going to tune it and train it on our systems. And again, it kind of goes back to some of those same issues that search has. Bots have a lot of those same issues where it's like if it's hooked up to the irrelevant data, it's going to be useless. Yeah. But if you can actually hook it up to the systems where the most important data is, and you make it an interface that users love and can learn, and you give them a little bit of training, man, it's going to be super powerful. I've already seen some examples of project managers who can say, what's the status to a bot, and it can go and pull, stuff out of the project management systems that actually gives them the data they're looking for.
Correct. And also expect a lot of investments here just in the platform for Microsoft. For if you're using Office 365, totally. A lot of stuff is going to be put out of the box, bringing these abilities. And one of the examples we just talked about, Bing for Business, and the ability then to search for your SharePoint data and other internal data sources. But this will be able to be connected to Cortana, so you can ask this question to Cortana. And since last month, you can add the Cortana skills to your Alexa device. So if you're having an Alexa device at home or at the office, you can then use that to query Cortana.
Yeah. And
So
that's powerful, because that's again another opportunity where rubber meets the road with, if Cortana is talking to Alexa, and I can just wake up and say, hey Alexa, when's my next meeting? And she can, you know, look at my meetings and say, hey, you've got one at 7:30, you better get going because it's going to take you this long to get to work. Or
correct.
there is a Teams link or whatever, so you can take this remotely. We recommend that. You know, she can start to get pretty smart about, but you better get dressed, you know, because
Yep.
it's a video call.
Yeah, and what you see from the statistics from Google is that already more than 50% of all the searches on Google are done from mobile, and I think around 30% are done from speech, or even more. I don't remember the exact number. So a lot of people are already using this, and of course, people have Google Home, or they have Cortana, or they have an Echo. So a lot of people are already practicing with this, so it's easy for them to start using it and also using it in their business environments. So this is something really that like this year and the coming year, there a lot of things are going to move that way, and it's going to be very quickly. It's going to be very normal to do this. So the SharePoint mobile app.
Yes, yes. Um, so this actually demonstrates a few things. I mentioned earlier that search has come to SharePoint Mobile, and not only does this kind of demonstrate that, but it also demonstrates the fact that this idea of being able to have results actually come up where the answer is the result. So instead of just saying, here's a bunch of documents, it actually can say, hey, there's actually some lists, and if data in this list is a match, we want to bring that back as a result. So being able to actually show the text of that. So like, and I'm sure there's a lot better analogies for this, but one that comes to mind is in the consumer world, if you're searching on Google and there's an answer on Wikipedia, a direct correlated response, Wikipedia will come up with, here's the definition for, you know, that term you're looking for, and it'll actually give you a little snippet right out of it.
Yeah, at the
If
top of
it's
your Google result page,
exactly
right?
right, and I think a lot of us have learned. In fact, I think that's one of the reasons it's more of a go. We often use that as a go-to, and not that Bing isn't as well, but that idea of let's have answers in our search terms, in our search queries, in our results. Wouldn't it be great if we just had answers in our results, not just more links that sometimes you can tell, sometimes you can't, but that idea of answers is really pretty powerful.
Absolutely.
And that's something we can control in this next release.
Yeah,
This
this new
answers in
search tab,
search.
it's released 2 weeks ago. It's been published to the app stores, and I really like where this heading. And what I understood is that the idea of the results that you're getting from the office.com page within Office 365 will be similar to the results you're going to get here in this search tab in the Find
Yeah,
tab.
so there's definitely a call to action here, which is update your SharePoint app, because now it's actually a lot more relevant and applicable. It's not just news anymore. You can actually search for people, search for documents, and it's not just those sites, and you're not browsing through lists and libraries and so on. Now you can actually do search.
Yep.
And it's pretty. It's backed by graphs, so it's a lot more relevant than it used to be too.
Good stuff.
Good stuff. And we talk about that kind of consistency, having predictive search and experiences right out of the box, right in SharePoint. And the refiner, that properties tab pops out, so you can actually do your refinement in a consistent way as well. And while these may be the ones you're kind of familiar with in terms of file type and modified date and time, if we're searching for, say, something like products, maybe you've created a search vertical, or you're searching for people, being able to then use additional metadata like department or location and those types of things will we're talking more about list data again, but those experiences are coming with these and these aren't things that just happen by default. You know, the features are there, but we need to learn to use them. and especially for data that you're saying this is the data people are actually looking for. So it's a lot of this is figuring out what people care about and then unlocking that. The part that is a little bit more intuitive is Microsoft kind of recognizing those entities, where in the past we would have to create properties and we'd have to create them and make them searchable, and there was a lot of back end work to expose those properties, and definitely very difficult to kind of finally say create those refiners. And that would take somebody who was more of like a search expert to create these refiners, or you'd buy some third-party product. Now a lot of that refinement, they're trying to get more and more of it out of the box, and we're getting closer to having those kind of custom entities. And still, don't assume it's just going to happen. Some of these things have to take a little bit of time and take effort, and have to take somebody thinking about it. But Microsoft's trying to do the right thing. But I want to give you one kind of quick example. There's a number of list enhancements that we're all anticipating, and one of those is sentiment. And so you want to know, hey, are these the example they keep giving is tweets. So we've pushed a bunch of tweets into this list, but we want to know, are they positive? Are they negative? Wouldn't it be great if we could categorize those and determine if these, so we want to look at the ones where people are saying negative things, or maybe somebody wants to look at the positive ones so we can actually retweet those, or support wants to respond to the negative ones. Well, wouldn't it be great if you could do that? And you can now, and you push it through Flow to do that.
Correct. I've learned how to do that, and basically what you can do, you can put a flow on a list, and as soon as you capture information using Flow, you can very quickly send out part of the information that is added in the list through Microsoft Cognitive Services. So if it's an image, you can do complex image recognition. If it's sound, you can capture sound and extract the words from it. You can do auto translation. You can do sentiment analysis. All the stuff which is in this Azure Cognitive Services can then be used to directly do stuff with that data, and then the result of it you can store back into the list. And the cool thing about that is that that's a way to automatically create additional search terms or additional values that people can search for. So imagine that you have a list with important documents data, and you can then automatically translate it to 5 other languages, put that also in the list, and then if people search for the same data but with another language, they can also find it. So there's so many ways that you can use that to enhance or improve stuff. It's very, very, very cool. So yeah, good stuff. So we're gonna do a quick poll. I see.
Yeah.
let's do that. I'm very curious, guys, what your ideas are about how things are working within your company. So how about, what do you think? Do you think it's hard to find information within your organization, within your current intranet or search solutions? I'm curious what you guys might think. So people are voting, 30%. Already 40% says absolutely, 50% somehow agrees. Yeah, that's very clear. The majority, well, 33% now says absolutely, 53% says I agree. Oh, more people are saying now absolutely. So that's pretty clear. So yes, we certainly all have to do a better job there. A second poll that I want to do is, do you think that search and navigation in SharePoint is much too hard for the average user? How about navigating SharePoint? What do you think here? Okay, 31% voted, 45. Yes. Well, we now have, okay, a couple more people are voting. Yes, well, more than half have voted now. Yes, so 38% yes, absolutely. 65% agrees, and 6% doesn't agree. So I'm very curious about your SharePoint setup there. Yeah, so 94% of the people in the webinar agree with the statement that there's still a lot of work to be done there.
Yeah, and I think that's sad but true, especially given 94% of our voters agree that navigation's a problem, search is a problem. Well, it sounds like we're focusing on the right issues, and I think that Microsoft definitely needs as well to hear.
Yes. Well, search and navigation, that's basically where we as a company are focusing on. So
it's a great transition.
yeah, good bridge here. So there are a couple of things that we want to do, but there's one very important thing, is that we want to make things much more easy and simple. So that means that we're focusing on simplicity when it comes to user interfaces for search and retrieving and consuming information. But we're also focusing on the way that we do that the technology behind it is an simple way to realize the results. So there are a couple of ways, there are many ways how we try to improve search, but the first and foremost way that we want to achieve that is by realizing a very user-friendly user interface that requires no user training. And we accomplish that by building a user interface which is crafted based on the user interface from smartphones. So our application is basically as consistent as we could get it towards iOS and Android, so that when people see it, they directly feel at home and know what to do when they want to use something. And of course, search has things from Google and Bing, and the way that you use shopping on an e-commerce site. But we really try to focus on this consistent behavior that when people see it, that they directly recognize it and know what to do. Another thing that we do differently is that we say information should not only come top down. So when you look at most intranet solutions, most of the information is managed by corporate communication or HR or an IT person, but these are not the people mostly really responsible for the data. Of course, corporate communication, when it comes to communication and sending out messages and the formal messaging and maybe managing a community, that's perfect, but that's communication. That's not knowledge. That's not knowledge access. That's not content access. Content should be managed by the people who work with the content. And the way that we focus on it is by making it possible that every employee within the company can add data, can add resources, can add data for that everybody can use, so that information can come bottom up. And this is, for us, is very, very important, because this has always been a missed opportunity, and we want to make this super, super easy. So by doing that, you're creating this organizational library of useful resources. Everybody has, what we found, the average company has between 500 and 5,000 resource links that people are using within the company. So that's like a mid-sized company. And with resources, it's not only like an internal system or an important internal document like rules and regulations or manuals or that kind of thing, but there's a lot of content that people send to each other through email. This can be links to online weblogs, to online help resources, online tools, SaaS applications that are being used, point-and-click solutions, small internal solutions, access databases, Power Apps, all of those things where people build something or found a very important resource and they share that with their coworkers. But there are a couple problems with doing that. At first, these links are only sent out once, and they're very hard to find back when you do search on Outlook, because you don't know what to search for, and Outlook search is not perfect, and there's so many junk in your inbox, it's very hard to find. And the other thing is that if a new coworker will start tomorrow, it won't have that link. So those links need to be put in this organizational library, and that's also a thing that we bring with our tool. So it's a tool. It has a web interface. It can be used on any PC or Mac. It can be used on any mobile phone. We also have a Windows application, so it can be used on your Windows device, and it will directly start up if you hit the icon on your desktop or your taskbar. It can also work on a Service Hub or other Windows devices. And we really try to make it a very intuitive experience to very quickly find information. The information that you can find is, of course, all the information that Microsoft provides. So we fully piggyback on everything that Microsoft is already doing. Here's a nice distinction from content services and content experiences, where the content services, like the platform layer that Microsoft provides and makes sure that all the information you put in OneDrive and SharePoint and other Office 365 services can be securely managed and can be indexed and can be given access control, and you can collaborate on it. That's all perfect for those repositories. And we focus on the content experience. And well, we just shown some examples where Microsoft is doing great work on improving the experience for OneDrive and SharePoint and within Teams. And other partners are also working on integrating on that data. And we're focusing on the search and discovery part. And besides having great new ways to leverage and find the data inside of the Microsoft platform, we also allow you to very quickly and easily integrate as many external resources that you want. And we also provide a default set of external resources, like searching in LinkedIn, searching in SlideShare, searching in known Microsoft help documentation. For some crazy reason, these very useful resources are very badly indexed by Google. So I will give you a quick example in the demo I'm going to do within a minute. So we leverage what Microsoft is doing, and we also have the ability to very simply add additional external data connectors to search in external systems and find all that crowdsourced data that is put in by employees. And putting in data is very quickly. In the search screen that we have, there's on the top right, there's a plus button. Somebody can click it, just put in a name, a short description, paste the URL, say, well, this is organizational data. And you can tag it, and you can manage the tags. We have multiple ways where you can do tag management, also connected to existing tagging systems. And you can say, well, this is for example, connected to a certain department. And then, of course, you can add keywords to it and save it, and that's then you're done. You can also use advanced and put in a certain icon or an image and add additional information, like where additional help, like a manual, can be found for this data source or application, or who is the owner. Other stuff can also be added, but I won't go into that now in this example. So what else do we have? So we're saying where, for example, Microsoft Teams is positioned as like the hub for teamwork. This is the place where people collaborate, a little bit similar to your SharePoint team site. This is the place where you collaborate with people on documents. And we're positioning Meetroo Entree as the hub for discovery and search. So it's not something that needs to be like replace your current intranet. It's something you can put next to it to make search and discovery a very easy place and have it accessible on any device. So very important, content needs to flow top down and bottom up. Very important statement for how the way that we think things should work. And I think I'm going to do a very quick demo on how this can work. I think I have 2 slides left to show you about that. One is this example where I just told you you have this additional information you can add. And one thing that you can add, for example, is who's the owner. And then you can put in a SIP address. And the SIP address could be, if you click it, you can very quickly get somebody on Skype. So if it's like a knowledge base and somebody is managing that particular knowledge base, then it allows you to directly, it could be a coworker sitting in the next room, but you don't know about, ask him a question about this tool or this data set. And it's also a way that if it connects to an application, an external, maybe like an outsourced company that manages that application, you can ask the support desk with a single click a question. And we're also now having examples where customers just put a bot in between so that you first get a bot which does the support. And if the bot doesn't know what to do, it will direct you to a person. So that's another way where we not even connect like people to information, but also people to people, because we bring more context on who is owning that particular data. So let me go very quickly to a very short demo on what our application will looks like. It will take three minutes or so, just to give you a very quick idea what it does. So here I have a search bar, and what I can do here is I can type words. So as soon as I, for example, type in HR, it will give me anything within the index regarding HR. All the information, this is a client-side application. So if you use our application, we have no access to your data. This is all within the context of the user. And so the results that are being shown here are all the results that the user has access to. And these results can be different things. Of course, it can be applications which are related to HR. It can be content in SharePoint, particular SharePoint sites. It can be people working in HR. So there are many quick ways to do the sorting. But one of the cool things, for example, if I find a document library here from HR, and if I just click the document library, I will directly get access to the content. I can open the file. I can create a new one. I directly have all the integration with all the stuff that Microsoft does. So anything you do here in Meetroo Entree, it fully integrates with all the modern things that Microsoft is doing within SharePoint. So for example, if I would find a particular data source, like it would be something like a Microsoft form, it will open up the Microsoft form directly here in my browser. If I will open up a Power BI dashboard, it will open up the Power BI dashboard. If I would open up a Power App, also it's a one click, and I can directly open up the Power App and use it for whatever reason I want to use this. Very quickly get specific information, like the example that I used in creating a quote or writing a proposal, get the facts that I needed, and I can continue and go back to work. Data should be so easy to get to. It should not take you too much time to get it. So one more example I want to demo is how do we do this simple integration? Well, for example, if I would search for Joel, I have no Joel data in this demo environment, but still I get a specific suggestion of other data sources that I could query to get data from. So here you see different examples. I'm not sure if, I think for some of the screens, this might actually be a little bit small. Let me see if I can, no, I'm not gonna be able to do that, but I'm gonna give you an example. I'm gonna search for Joel. Oh, I'm not logged in at the moment on LinkedIn, but imagine that I was logged on LinkedIn. I could, and I put in Joel Oleson, I could directly do that query and find the stuff within LinkedIn. Here I get data from from Delft. So the query was passed through to Delft. So this could be any system that you have that could be simply integrated visually. We call this visual search integration, or because we pass through the query to another application, and almost all applications are web-based and have their own way of using a search query that you can pass through. And this way, very easily, we allow users to realize, like, oh, we also have these data sources where I could get an answer. They simply click it and they can find it.
That reminds me a little bit of, it's like, oh, if we need to search in ServiceNow, and then we need to search in Workday, and then we need to search in Confluence, and we need to search in SharePoint, and then we need to search in OneDrive, and it's all these different systems where it's like, if we could, if there was the one search that would rule them all, that could bring them all together, but unfortunately, a lot of these companies aren't so friendly with each other, and connectors are extremely expensive, and it's like there's people who are trying to do it, but it's very cost prohibitive. But this idea of a link that then passes the query, that's pretty clever.
Yep. one final thing, and I noticed that we're running out of time, so I'm going to make it short. One of the things that we also do is we have custom sets of links, so it allows you to do certain action in external systems with a single click. We have a Dynamics package where you say, if I type lead, I can have a one-click button to create a lead in Microsoft Dynamics. Or it could also be Salesforce. We also have a link collection for Salesforce. Or it could be for ServiceNow that you have a one-click way to create an issue in ServiceNow or in another help desk system. So besides doing search, we also have a way to very quickly get access to different ways to actually do something in an external system. So let me go back to the slides, and finally we're going to wrap up this webinar a bit. Here we are. I have the final slide here, which should pop up now across the screen. Does that work? Yep. So it's our mission to make people work happy by providing easy access to information, and most importantly, with a single click. So it should not take effort. It should take you a couple of seconds so that you can concentrate on what you're actually doing, which is the thing that we focus on. We have a free version of our application that directly works. You can use the application. We have a test demo environment on our website. If you use your Microsoft account, you will have direct access to this test environment and see how it looks and feels, and get a quick feeling on the UI. You can also use our SharePoint app. It will take you 10 minutes. You can install it on a demo environment or your own production environment. And the free version already does all the searching and navigation in your SharePoint environment, but it's for personal use. And you don't have the ability to share links with colleagues, and some other sharing capabilities are not there. And it doesn't allow you to do, changing the branding, like the background images and stuff like that. Yeah. So that's what we do. We really try to make search a little bit more accessible to everybody. Some of the things, of course, you can do yourself, but we're very hard on improving many things based on feedback from our customers, and we have more than 4 years of research in it. We're not that expensive, so it's easy to use and to start using. So a quick poll before we go into Q&A. I'm curious what you think. What I just showed you in the past couple of seconds, just to get a quick idea what you think of it. If it's something that you might use, if you will have it. I'm curious to understand if you would be interested, of course, and just to know that we're on the good track here. So good stuff. I see most people collecting, so that makes me happy, of course. Would be nice to get a bit more votes. Yes, 40%.
And we can leave this up for a little while if you want, while we're chatting about some of these questions. In fact, you can access the Q&A panel if you have any questions.
Yes.
And I see a couple of questions coming in.
That's good. Yeah, we starting the Q&A then. By now, we're very keen to understand what kind of concerns you might have regarding search, what the kind of issues you might see. Would love to discuss it here, and any question would be interesting. Also, any comments or feedback you might have. Did we say something? I see a first question coming in.
Yep. And the first question is related to the demo and app you just showed. Is that app available for SharePoint on-prem?
Yes. The application is a default SharePoint app. It will allow you to install our solution on SharePoint 2013, 2016, and the coming 2019.
And we might as well follow up with hybrid.
Yeah, well. So that's Yeah, that's similar. So there, of course, there are multiple ways that you can set up hybrid. If you're using the preferred installment and deployment that Microsoft is suggesting, that then everything will work as you would expect, and we're just leveraging the experience that you already have and just make it more beautiful and extend it with the capabilities that we provide.
All right, so I got a couple of other questions. We've got, what do you expect with the future of SharePoint and lists and this machine learning and AI? And let me just jump in here. I have some ideas about this one. So I think it's good that we started with it being off by default. I think, well, personally, I prefer to start seeing this more integrated and more happening by default rather than it take action. But I can understand why Microsoft would push it through Flow. It's the idea of having Luis and the translation and all these things not happening, that basically pushing it through Flow, it gives the control to you. But I think unfortunately, because of the way the UI is built right now, a lot of people don't even know that it's available. You know, it's like that.
Correct.
So
You're
I
saying,
expect them to improve the user experience so people can know that these things are actually there.
yeah, and you mentioned Luis, which is the language understanding service within Azure.
That's right. That's right.
Correct.
It's like that
True.
stuff's really, really powerful. And obviously you're not going to need that on every list. But I expect more of that. And it's the end user power user thing where it's like,
Yes.
how do we help grow up some of the people who are actually creating lists today to help them understand that these capabilities exist?
Yeah. Well, SharePoint list has always been a very quick database to set up, and very quick. You will have the input forms and the edit forms, and now with Power Apps integrated, you can make these forms as beautiful as you wish. Of course, with limitations, but you can do that. And now when data gets submitted, you can use Flow to use this wild bunch of online services to manipulate and reuse this information and to transform it in whatever way. And this is gonna bring, well, an amazing, unthinkable amount of cool things that power users are gonna build in the coming years. I'm very interested to see what people are going to build with it.
Yeah, totally. So what's next in search?
What's next in search?
I guess both of us could probably take that one.
We're already over time, so let's answer that question after. I'm going to close up the webinar, and then we're going to answer that question. Close up us in saying like, for everybody who's still here, I see a lot of people are still here, so I can imagine that people need to go to meetings or do other stuff, but very happy you were here.
That's actually a good transition to our next session too.
Yes.
We can actually give you a cliffhanger and say, well, we'll see you at Ignite, and I'll definitely be there. And as well, we're going to talk about what was announced at Ignite and any more demos we can include. We want to do kind of a search-focused presentation following Ignite in the next few weeks.
That we're going to do anyway. So in 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks, we're going to have that session, and it's going to be, we're going to address all the new things that have been released, and we're going to keep a very close eye on that and talk to the Microsoft people there to fully understand the new capabilities that will get announced. For everybody who is here and really needs to run now, thank you for participating. We're very happy we're here, and I hope you enjoyed the content. For the people who are sticking, what's the future of search? Yeah, so let's do a quick one. So the near future absolutely is the speech-based quick.
Yeah, bots in various ways, right?
Yeah.
You shouldn't have to type it, and it should be much more intuitive. Like, it's the searches that you don't have to search, right? Search without a head, headless search.
Headless search, where you have multiple devices that can tap into it. So where you can connect this data source and say, I want to build a Cortana skill for it. And from that moment, you can have that data accessible on your Google Home, your Amazon Echo device, and the Harman Kardon Cortana devices that you now have, and more will follow. Sonos already I think has plans to go get those things. So
Yep.
these things will become will become normal on the work floor. People are going to get these things on their desks, and of course it doesn't work for every search. So sometimes, I mean, in many cases, you still want a graphical response and filter it and group to it, or open up the document. But for directly getting an answer on a particular specific fact, that's going to be very useful. Also, just from your smartphone, just talking into your headset, or while you're driving, and an idea pops up, or you're just thinking, well, did we ever do a project for that customer? And you're thinking of it, and instead of calling a colleague and picking on his time, you're just asking, well, give me the CRM bot and ask it on the bot, did we ever do such a project on for this customer? Or tell me all the projects that were we done related to this product for this customer. Very powerful.
Yep. Yeah, I think the project stuff's going to be a big push. Like if once the PMO gets hooked into that, man, we're gonna see so much more coming that way.
Absolutely. So yeah, so speech is definitely, and everything connected to well, artificial intelligence, and underneath that, of course, that's machine learning, and it's about pattern recognition, having multiple data types accessible.
I expect more. You know, there's so much stuff that's locked up in the cloud, and but at the same time, once you authorize it, I do expect more of those things to come together with federated type experiences, and like the facilitated through the Alexas or the bots and so on, where I authorize it to be able to access my data. So I think we'll get more experiences that start bringing things together.
Yeah. And when we look a little bit further into the future, we have the topic of deep learning, and that's when we really, what I call artificial intelligence by the media, is already used in so many, and by the marketing people in many cases where it shouldn't be used. But deep learning is there are a lot of startups, and Microsoft is also buying these companies, and there's a lot of things regarding deep learning at the moment. And in a few years, these technologies are more and more also going to be available to businesses, and that with neural networks and that kind of things. Of course, the Microsoft Graph is already doing stuff in that area, but it's going to be even more smarter, and the ability for very complex pattern recognition things, where actively the software is going to give you suggestions that you didn't even know you were looking for. So that's I think for the a bit further away for the future. Yeah. So.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we have to. I'm going to end the webinar. Don't want to. I see there's still a lot of people sticking orders in, so that's great. But we're going to end it here.
Thanks, everybody.
Joel, again, very big thanks for joining me here in this webinar and doing this great session.
Yep. Thanks a lot. See everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Everybody have a great day. And we will be sending out an email tomorrow with the links to the slide decks and everything you need. So you will get that. All right.
Perfect.
Ciao.
Yep. See you. Bye.
Good day.